Welcome to Forward Ever, Leading in Challenging Times, presented by Worth Wealth Management, a weekly conversation with area leaders about how to persevere during uncertain times. Now here's your host, Gary Shorman.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Forward Ever, Leading in Challenging Times. And you know what? You drive by some of the roads, especially 22nd, you go on East 13th, and you see a lot of construction going on. Well, I ran into the man in charge the other day on the post office and had a couple questions. I thought, why not save him for something like this? Because I bet you're having some of those same questions. Our guest today is Ron Wilson. He is the superintendent of USD 489, not only leads our school district, but is managing the process of a $143 million plus bond issue that was voted on by the voters here. And so, Ron, welcome to our program today.
Thanks, Gary. It's good to be here. I'm excited to be able to share some information about what is going on with all those.
Well, you know, you see the digging, and I didn't see you on a bulldozer, but you see the digging out on 13th. You go by on Roosevelt, and you see all of that structure going up. Let's start with the bond overall, kind of where we are, the big picture view of this. We started out, the voters voted in May of last year, 2022, actually, $143.5 million to help upgrade our high school, and then that trickled down into others. So that process got started. Where are we today in the overall process? Then we'll talk about some of those specific things.
Well, I mean, where we're at right now, as you've already stated, we've started two of the projects, and that being Roosevelt Elementary and also at Hayes High. Roosevelt, of course, is a little further along as you're starting to see things go up and be built up, and as well as the stuff that you can't see that is going on inside the current school at the time. Some renovations that are going to be, just spectacular. Out at Hayes High, they're off of 13th. It's just a lot of dirt work. Of course, when they started it, that was when everything was dry and the wind was blowing, and you definitely knew they were working. We've kind of slowed to a little bit of a halt, and it's a good thing and a bad thing all at the same time. We've gotten some moisture, so that has definitely slowed progress on a lot of the work that's being done out there. So, that's right now are the big things. We'll continue to be working on other projects. We still have 3 schools that we'll be looking at as we finish the bond. This is really about a 3 to 4 year project. So we're really on just kind of have started finish the first year of the project, and so we're continuing on.
So let me ask this. One of the things that you have to run a school district, which is a big job in and of itself, a lot of moving parts there. How do you divide up your time for overseeing the building project, making sure those things are happening versus the other? Is that a 50-50 deal, 10-90 deal, some days 100%? Where is that?
Well, you have a lot of balls in the air for sure at times. I am blessed. I have a great administrative team at the district level who support a lot of the things that are needed in just the day-to-day operations of a school district. That being Shanna Dinkle, our assistant superintendent, Chris Hipp, assistant superintendent, as well as Kyle Carlin, who serves as our special ed director for the district. We have great building administrators who do a great job in their building. So I am blessed. But there are things, it is definitely a deal where I have devoted a ton of time to the bond, and will continue to devote that time because that's what's important. But that work is still continuing. That's the normal work of our school business. But I do have a lot of great people who are supporting me in that help.
And that's so important to our community, and I think that's the reason the community voted for the bond project, is continue that growth within our system, whether it be facilities, teachers, administrators, that to be able to have something our community can be proud of. So let's talk first about Roosevelt, because stuff is coming out of the ground. There's big iron masses. There's almost looks like there's a roof ready to go. What's going to happen inside that big facility, the big area that's being built right now off of 22nd Street?
Well, if you're familiar with the Roosevelt site and what you're seeing an addition that is being put on the north end of that school, the biggest area, and where I think people have noticed, we have some precast walls that have already been erected, and they've got some things written on the front of the building that represent Roosevelt and their core values. And I've gotten a lot of comments from patrons about how they really like that. That actually is physically the portion that you're seeing that's been erected. It looks like it's more finished, and that's just because of the precast walls that have been put up. Is the actual gymnasium that will be added, and we're excited about that because in the old school, we have always had to kind of have double duty with the gym and the cafeteria, and trying to hold PE and move everything quickly to get everything set up so we can continue to have classes. And so we're really excited that we'll have our own individual gym, which will allow PE classes to not dictate how our schedule and lunch and everything that goes on. So to the south of the gymnasium is what you're seeing, and there's some it's kind of a steel roof that's been laid out there. Is that primarily what you're seeing is the new office area to the front, as well as along the long space is where our library will now be housed, as well as to the back of that are some additional classrooms that you're seeing at Roosevelt.
So I understand the Roosevelt project is about $22 million, is the way that kind of got divided up a little bit that way. So it's about that part of it. But when it's all completed, we have a ribbon cutting for the kids to break in. It'll be close to what, 700 students will be in the Roosevelt building?
Yeah, I think the thing is it'll probably be a little smaller than that. I would say right around 600 students, but at the same time, it will house more students than about 200 more students than we currently are housing. And so that gives us, space as we start. Not necessarily will it be full right away. We don't know. It's we are a district of choice. And so we allow families to select which school they want to go to. And so we're hopeful people will see Roosevelt as a place that they would like for their kids to go. But at the same time, we've got a couple other schools that'll be elementaries that are going to have some really good facilities as well. I think the thing that I want to share is that space was the priority of this bond issue. That's what it was about. How we could create space at all levels, elementary, middle, and high school. And that's what we're getting with Roosevelt, as well as the other two places. So, we're going to have space to be able to move students, as well as hopefully have some potential for growth for our community in the future. And so that's great to have that flexibility.
So when I look at that building, the big concrete thing, that's the actual gym is going to be a storm shelter. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the great things that we promised to the patrons as we brought the bond issue, is that we wanted to create a safe space for those situations that might come up. If you're familiar with Roosevelt and you've ever had, maybe you were a student there or had kids there, they go down into the basement to it's kind of a scary little situation. It's these small little tunnels they fill up with the kids. And so we're really excited to be able to have to take kids and staff down there into those tunnels. They'll all just fill up in the gymnasium. It'll give them a lot of space. And if they have to stay there for a considerable amount of time, it won't feel as cramped.
Well, it's fun to watch that grow. And then switching over to the high school, that project is, the whole deal is over $100 million, but it will create a beautiful new high school. And what goes along with the high school? Because you just think of a high school, but what all is included with that is included in the new building that we don't have today, or improves on what we have?
Yeah, I mean, what you're going to find is some things that I think are important to a high school, any high school, but really a 5A high school. I think it's important that we have these kinds of amenities. The biggest thing, and I guess the one I'm really probably the most proud of is it will be our events auditorium, I guess, for that'll we'll be able to host our students for concerts and plays and everything that will happen right on our high school campus, as opposed to today where we hold everything off campus at the 12th Street Auditorium, which was part of the old Hayes High. So that's probably the exciting piece. Of course, we're going to be able to play some football and some soccer just right outside our high school doors, which has never happened for the most part. At Hayes High, we were very fortunate. We live in a community with that has a university who has been very gracious to the school district in allowing them to use their facilities. But at the same time, we're overly excited to be able to have our own football field, soccer field, where we can have some of those activities. So those are probably the two biggest things that I would come to mind as far as what we're adding that we don't currently have at our current high school. Of course, our high school have some once again some flexible space and more space than they had previously, which once again was a priority of the bond, and so we're really excited about that.
Any surprises, Ron, as you've gone through this so far?
Oh, Gary, there's tons of surprises.
Is that a long list?
Yeah, and some of them are always good surprises. I would say the surprises are that we've seen some things that I think are really exciting that maybe we didn't even really fully comprehend that would come with this, in terms of just how nice we can create some really spaces for kids and staff. But at the same time, there's been some surprises. Of course, we hit the market just as time as we saw a little increase in pricing because of some economic factors and for many reasons. And so those were some things that we've had to deal with and have been difficult at times. But at the same time, we put a tremendous amount of work into making sure that our priority is still our space. And so we have not cut any space. We've maybe cut some frills that we would maybe have thought would have been great. But the thing I'm proud of is we've really held on to our space.
Well, that's good to see as you clear the ground what that's going to look like when it starts going up. So we'll talk about timelines. Our guest today is Ron Wilson. He's a superintendent of USD 489, working to complete a $143 million bond project. We'll be back with Ron, talk about some of the things we're going to see in that timeline and when it's going to happen after this.
The most successful investors are those that can keep their emotions in check and take a longer-term view at what portfolios will be worth 3 to 5 years down the road. I'd say that's the most important in determining what investor outcomes are. Market corrections will continue in the future. We've seen many of them over the years, only to see equity prices rise higher, and that'll be the case in the future.
Worth Wealth Management, enhancing lives and strengthening families.
Welcome back to Forward Ever, leading in challenging times, with our guest, Ron Wilson, superintendent of USD 489. We're talking about the construction. Roosevelt, we see coming out of the ground. What's the timeline for Hayes High? When will we see things coming out of the ground? Concrete obviously gets poured, all those sort of things get put in place. We'll see all that building go on. But what is the timeline kind of from start to ribbon cutting at Hayes High?
Well, right now where we're at is they are, of course, they're doing some dirt work, but if the thing is they're pouring some footings. Of course, weather has delayed us. I've been sharing with people and understand, just so people understand, this construction schedule has about 65 days worked into the schedule for weather delays. So our target date is August of 2025. Right now, we've probably lost about 10 of those 65 days. So I think at this time we're still way ahead of schedule. as far as when you will start to see things being erected, I'm told that we could probably see some stuff going up as probably 1st of April. I think we would start to see some things happening in terms of more than just dirt work and pouring footing. So we're probably a month and a half away from actually seeing some of those things happen. But they tell me once that starts happening, it'll start going fast, and you'll start to see a lot. I think the goal will be to have everything closed in by next fall, which is exciting because then you're kind of out of those having to, worry about weather delays. And I think that's our important point right now, is just making sure that we stay on target. August of 2025 is the date. And of course, that's hopeful because as we move Hayes High across the parking lot into their new facility, we'll immediately begin doing some work on the current Hayes High to prepare it for Hayes Middle School when they come in, hopefully August of 2026. So that right now is what I'm hearing. And of course, construction is always at the mercy of the factors that sometimes hold you to and keep you to getting to where you need to be. But we are working with the Nabholz Construction. I just am overly impressed with the work that they've done, and they're just they've done a really great job of keeping us informed and really giving us what any questions we have. So at this point, I feel pretty good about where we're at.
Ron, we'll talk about how listeners, viewers out there can find out a little bit more. Before we do, though, I know there's been a couple interesting things, and I'll call it reduction or schools closing. I know Russell's talking about closing a middle school. Wichita has done a couple of things. Education is not the easiest process today because there's so much change going on from the online type training to other things. How are you guys adapting to that? Because it falls into the space question I think many of our people are asking about.
Well, I think the thing is, like you mentioned, Gary, education is changing, and that's where we're always looking to adapt and be flexible to what is needed. We're very fortunate in Hayes. We have seen increases over the last several years in our enrollments, and we continue to believe that our projected enrollments will still see some slight increases. I think it's important that we understand that being in Western Kansas, sometimes we have to understand that sometimes people choose not to make this their home. But at the same time, I think that's what's exciting about this project, is I think people will see us as a community with a thriving school system that people want to bring their families to. And I think that's what we're hopeful will continue to happen. So, yes, adding space has been our priority, and I still hold on to the belief, and looking at projections, that we'll be able to fill these buildings for a long time. And so I'm not concerned that we would ever have to, close something after we've built these buildings. So I think that's where I'm at with that.
In our area, it seems like that would be a long stretch. And you mentioned people moving to Hayes may not be a choice, but they get here and find out what a great community we have, and they end up staying, myself included. You end up staying here for 30 years. And it's like, well, how did this happen? Well, it's because good schools, good people, all those things that we feel that are important in our part of the world. And you look outside, and it's not as fun sometimes in the big cities as people think either. So one question as you go in, and it ties into that just a little bit. I know one of the things you're working on as you're building these is security and safety for our kids. We talked a little bit about that with the storm shelters, but to what extent is that being factored into the new buildings?
Oh, absolutely. It's previously our district has spent some dollars to make our buildings more secure and more safe. I would tell you that through this bond project, we're even able to make our buildings, I feel like, even safer and more secure. With being able to update some technology, of course, as in terms of our door locks and how we're able to quickly shut down areas just with the a computer and or a safety alert that might be going out. Those are things that we didn't have, and I think we'll be able to feel really good about that. And also, just as we've been able to adjust and make some changes with all of our buildings, we're putting things in specific spots. Of course, you always want your office to be the front of your building and make sure that people have to enter and it can control those spaces. So yeah, we put a lot of thought into safety and security, and really I feel very, very good about what we've been able to do with the bond and making sure we have the safest and secure environment that we can.
Well, I know you have to get on a bulldozer here this afternoon and do some dirt work, but where should some? Well, maybe you and I could go out there and we could get on. Two of us could dock our way onto a bulldozer. Where can someone go and they want to follow up and kind of keep track? Because it's one thing for us to do a program and this gets out on social media in a lot of different places, but how can people follow along?
Well, I would encourage anyone who has an interest in wanting to know what's going on with our bond. We have on our website, our USD 489 website. If you go to that, they're right on the very front page, and you'll see it says bond progress. You can click on those links and it'll take you to a Hayes High School page, a Roosevelt page. We don't have anything on the other buildings at this point because there's really not much to share, but we have pictures updated, and those are done frequently, almost weekly. You'll have pictures of construction progress. You'll be able to see some drone views of the high school site as well as the Roosevelt site, just overlooking. But also we have pictures that you'll be able to see inside, especially Roosevelt at this point, where you'll be able to see what some of the renovations are looking like inside there. We have a ton of those. It is your hub for information about the bond, and like I said, it's frequent. It's not something that we don't update. It's done weekly. So I would encourage anyone to do that if they have questions or want to see what's going on.
Ron, thanks for taking the time to be out here, and also thanks for being and I'm going to put this in a cheerleader, promoter. Helping to make this happen, because overall the voters in Hayes decided it was going to be best if we had a really strong school system. You're the guy driving the charge for doing that to make that happen. So appreciate all your work and all the work of your team to make this happen. Absolutely.
We are definitely focused on the future of Hayes schools, and it's bright. It's looking like we got some great days ahead of us. I'm an impatient person because I want to see this happen tomorrow, but understanding it's going to take us a few years to get this all done, but future's definitely bright, and excited about for our community and our kids and our staff and everyone who's these buildings will touch.
Hey, Ron, thanks so much. Our guest today on Forward Ever has been Ron Wilson, Superintendent of USD 489. The program is brought to you by Worth Wealth Management, where you can live with confidence. I'm Gary Shorman.
Thanks for joining us for Forward Ever, Leading in Challenging Times, presented by Worth Wealth Management. Join us right here next week for another episode with host Gary Shorman. Until then, remember to move forward ever, backward never.